Hello watch enthusiasts and welcome to Watch Chronicler. Today we're returning to the subject of a watch which I've enjoyed watching progress to production over the last few months, the Horage Tourbillon 1. This independently produced watch is designed to show that a complication like a tourbillon doesn't need to be hideously expensive to be well built, well engineered and designed to survive everyday life. I think this is a project which shows that Horage and its movement maker THE Plus are here to stay. So in today's video, let's take a look at how this in-house, roughly 7,000 Swiss franc watch is reaching production and what the final touches are as this becomes the most affordable Swiss tourbillon ever made. I'd also like to take a look at the comparison of this movement next to alternative off-the-shelf tourbillons, as I think it gives a curious view into part of the Swiss watch industry we very rarely see. Before I begin, I would like to make clear that this video has been produced in partnership with Horage, but this partnership was reached due to a general alignment of ideas and interests with Watch Chronicler, and so it really is my pleasure to present this story. So what do we need to recap? Well, the Horage Tourbillon 1 was a project which was first shared with me when I travelled to Biel in Switzerland to spend a few days with the brand last year. They showed me their range, their facilities and the work going into their movements. However, the tourbillon remains something in early stages. It was being produced with outside help from Les Jouperet, but which fell apart a few months ago and resulted in Horage producing the movement from scratch from their existing in-house movements and additional work which they designed themselves. Even so, I won't go on about that too much because I spoke about it at length in my last video on the subject. Do take a look at that video to find out about the backstory. In any case, as we approach the second stage of pre-ordering, which will start next week and aim to deliver those 50 watches in March, let's see what the final version of this watch offers. At this stage, the Tourbillon 1 is no longer a design project, but has actually started production in order to get the watches ready for their buyers. Even so, these watches have changed rather a lot since the previous versions, and here are some of the highlight features which have changed. Let's begin where all of this watch's 100-hour power reserve is stored, in the mainspring. The spring barrel, the metal casing of the spring, is skeletonized on the Tourbillon 1, as is the case for most of the movement, and aesthetically it makes sense to showcase what's going on inside. However, this poses a potential problem for such a watch, as debris is sometimes released by abrasion within this spring. On most watches this is contained inside the spring barrel, but obviously on a skeletonized example this debris can damage other components when it falls out. To avoid this by reducing friction, a diamond-like carbon DLC coating is applied, as you sometimes see on the cases of black watches. Interestingly, this spring is also an automatic spring and is not anchored in place like you would normally see on a manual watch. This means you can't overwind this watch, although this may at first feel unusual for an owner of other manual watches which stop winding when fully wound. From here we should move backwards from the mainspring to the way in which this watch is wound up. For this final version of the movement, the ratchet wheel, which turns when the watch is wound up, is skeletonized with a double H pattern, whilst the ratchet spring, the spring which holds this in place and allows it to click along, is now a very elegant curved shape. Altogether, you can see this movement change from a technical exercise into one with a clear aesthetic side too. Whilst this watch is of course designed to show value, it's still a luxury watch at this price point, with a gold case option as well, so it does need to provide a necessary level of refinement for such a customer or buyer's expectations. Still, I'm glad that Horage have kept a technical look to this watch, because after all it is a watch designed to be worn every day. Before we continue, if you're enjoying today's video and want to see more, please like, subscribe and hit the bell icon. If you want to always know about our new articles and exactly what's going on in the watch world, follow us on Instagram and head over to watchchronicler.com to read our articles, listen to our podcasts, and see the very best of our reviews. Returning to the Tourbillon 1, if we're to understand the latest changes, we also have to stop off at the pièce de résistance, the tourbillon. At this point, the 3.9mm titanium tourbillon cage weighs considerably less than 0.3 grams. For shock resistance and stability, it's also been decided that a bearing will be added within the tourbillon. This assembly is now anchored in place by 6 screws, whilst the tourbillon bridge has been thinned to appear even more open. Finally we come to the balance wheel itself at the heart of the tourbillon, which is rhodium plated, but more importantly for accuracy, features screws to vary its inertia and regulate the movement's timekeeping. With all this sorted, it really does look like this project is finally ready for production. So how did Horage produce this movement so quickly? Well, aside from employing some seriously experienced industry members, as explained in the previous video, you have to look at the brand's current movement catalogue to find the crossover. This is a brand which already contributes considerably to the watch industry with its K1 movement as seen in their current collection, This is a movement which Horage and its partner THE Plus produced from pre-production to the finished article. As a result, they have access to all the components at every stage. They also have a brand new movement which was only unveiled a few days ago, K2. Now K2 is a micro-rotor automatic movement which, among affordable or at least accessible watches, is a rarity. Whilst not the subject of today's video, it's too exciting a project not to mention. By displacing the automatic rotor to one side and into the movement, this mechanism starts at only 2.9mm in thickness and is only 3.6mm in a full-fat, small-second calendar GMT version with a power reserve indicator. No doubt I'll talk about this in full quite soon, but I hope you can see that most components needed for the Tourbillon 1 don't need to be unproven and new, but can instead be fully tested and entirely serviceable for years to come, thanks to the existing catalogue from this brand. Of course, this also includes the silicon escapement, which Horage are so well known for. So how does this production-ready tourbillon for the masses shape up against others in the industry? Well, this may come as a surprise to some, but the idea of an off-the-shelf tourbillon isn't actually a new one. Various brands offer them, but the most popular is probably the Lejouperet LJP 7814.00, a skeletonized flying tourbillon movement which can be bought for use in third-party timepieces. The most affordable watch to sport this movement is the Zelos Mirage Tourbillon, which is a $10,000+ watch. This movement has a comparable sort of appearance to the Horage Tourbillon 1, although without the high-efficiency escapement, spring, and with a slightly higher beat rate, this watch has a 60-hour power reserve instead of the full 100 hours of the Tourbillon 1. Additionally, it has a less developed crown assembly, something even more important on a manual watch. The result is a movement appealing to a more expensive market, but which technically does offer less. In truth, it's quite interesting to compare these movements side by side, because of course, before going entirely alone with a completely unique design, the Horage Tourbillon 1 was going to use some work from Lejouperet to become a finished product. Where does this leave us with the new Horage Tourbillon 1, which is entering its second stage of pre-order? Well, it leaves us with a watch truly capable of keeping all of the promises made in pre-production, but which has only technically become better along the process. With its cut-out movement, the Tourbillon 1 certainly wasn't built for everyone, but for those who appreciate it, I can't think of any other watch delivering so much technically or whimsically with such a historic and meaningful complication for this price. Anyway, I'll conclude the video there, but let me know what you think of the project at this stage, and what you think this watch means for the industry more generally. Thank you very much for watching. This is Armon from WatchChronicler.com. Out.